I had a series of visions when I was younger. And after each one ended, the same thought would be stuck in my head.
What did you see?
I saw a nun.
Welcome back to the Haddonfield Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark.
I'm Tawan.
And today we're reviewing The Nun, released in 2018, directed by Corin Hardy and screenplay by Gary Doberman. Tawan, can you give the people the plot summary?
When a young nun at a cloistered abbey in Romania takes her own life, a priest with a 100 past and a novice on the threshold of her final vows are sent by the Vatican to investigate. Together they uncover the order's unholy secret, risking not only their lives but their faith and their very souls. They confront a malevolent force in the form of the same demonic nun that first terrorized audiences in The Conjuring 2, as the abbey becomes a horrific battleground between the living and the damned.
All right, so The Nun. Like many other movies in this franchise, this is my first time watching it, and even for a movie that's called The Nun, I should have expected to have like hugely religious overtones, but the overtones that were there weren't even, I don't know how to say it. This movie tried to give us something, because I don't know if I'm right, but this is the prequel to the entire franchise, right?
Yeah.
So like if I'm watching them in chronological order based off the timeline within the movies, like we would start with The Nun.
Yeah, it would be The Nun, and then well, I don't know when The Nun 2 takes place, but I'm assuming probably maybe The Nun 2, then Annabelle creation.
Okay, but just like I feel like for an origin movie to Valak, I just felt like something was missing for me. Like for me, there are parts that are missing. The story wasn't really connecting for me. I don't know. What about you? What do you think? What are your thoughts on this movie overall?
After re-looking into it, it was boring, honestly. And I didn't even have a good first time seeing this movie, because when I saw it the first time in theaters, someone had a baby in the theater and it was crying. So I left the movie early because I was not dealing with that. So even seeing this movie the first time, was not having a good time. But rewatching it now, it was fairly boring, honestly, and which kind of sucked because our review for The Conjuring 2 was really good, and we liked Valak in The Conjuring 2. Valak was a good villain for the movie. Okay. And Valak was like a good villain for the movie, but in Valak's own movie, it was, I don't know, it just wasn't really kind of hitting the same way. I felt like I was more.
Was the design different, or no? Was that just me?
I think the design was the same. Maybe the makeup. Sometimes that stuff kind of changes slightly. But I think it was the same. It was the same actor and actress and everything. So, all that seemed to stay the same. But I don't know. It was just not really kind of giving the same energy. I felt more scared of Valak in The Conjuring in the hands of James Wan than I did in this movie, and I'm not sure why. Because they were kind of doing the same type of thing, and maybe that was it. They didn't really, do a lot of different with kind of what they were going for with Valak. Now, some of the scenes that Valak was in, the way they went about certain stuff with the character, as far as the certain scares and stuff went, they were fine. But some of it, we had already seen in The Conjuring, the whole, shadow, walking across the room type of deal. And I don't think the payoff was kind of there this time around. But also, it felt really barren, I guess you could say. Like, even though we're in this huge castle, and yes, we know like what a huge church. It just kind of looked like a castle, but and we know like a lot of the nuns aren't really there anymore, and like some of them been dying and stuff. But it felt like very like barren. And we really just had the like main three of the Father Burke, Frenchie, and Sister Irene, and I don't know. I felt like there should have been more people involved. It just felt like a little barren considering the location.
I feel like there should have been more, like, there should have been more victims. Like, this is the first time we're really seeing people die in the Conjuring verse.
Mm-hmm.
When you get that many deaths. And I feel like for this to be the chronological kickoff point for this franchise, and for it to, and like, for the Catholic Church to have a reason to send someone there to investigate, there should have been more. Like, I say the first 20 minutes should have been, we're watching Dalek terrorize more than just two nuns. Like, the part with the nuns when they die, I would have liked that part to be expanded for like 15 or 20 minutes. Let's see it not just mess with the nuns, but also probably mess with, some other priests or some deacons, or some kids who are doing Bible study. Like, I don't know, I just feel like that part should have been fleshed out. And then when we got to other parts where you say it felt barren, then that would have been earned. It's barren because we spent 20 minutes watching these characters be picked off, and now there's no one here. Does that make any sense?
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, I feel like it just, it could have used like a couple more like supplemental people, and like, or just cannon fodder. Everybody doesn't need to serve a purpose all the time in a movie. They can just be there to get picked off. And which, I mean, we had at the beginning. We saw those two at the beginning who they like kind of kickstarted the whole story for us. The two nuns that were trying to, I guess, absolve the Church of Valak. But yeah, just throughout the rest of the movie, I don't know. It just didn't really. The rest of the story, like the whole thing with Father Burke's like character, like his background with the incident that he had with Daniel, and then Sister Irene's whole deal of her kind of being like a novice nun into all of this. I don't know. Like it just didn't really stick with me enough to have me care as much. But I stuck around because, you liked Valak in Conjuring 2, so that was the only reason why I stuck around, to even see what was going to happen in here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And by you saying that, it points out one of the main issues I have with the spinoffs of The Conjuring. Is like that first Conjuring movie introduced two great villains in spirits in theory. And they gave us Valak, and they gave us Annabelle. And they're like an issue, and to go into both of their own franchises, both of those sucked. Annabelle was not good. The things we were teased about in that little snippet of appearance in Conjuring, they weren't lived up to when it was time for her to go to her own movies. And the same thing with the nun. Like, we were teased that Valak was this big bad, and we were fucking scared of Valak. But then when it's time for Valak to shine in their own movie, it's disappointing.
They made Valak seem like Thanos.
Yes. And it's like, come on, you can't tease this, and then when it's time for you to follow up, you don't actually follow the fuck up. Like, I don't know. It's just, I expected more and I wanted more. But Were there any scenes that stick out for you? Scenes or jump scares or the minor kills that we have? Because for me, I would say the only scene that had any that really stood out for me was those last scenes with Morris when we find the upside down cross on the back of his neck, and when we're watching a like the little lecture
Mm.
slides, and we found out that Valak actually possessed Morris. Like that scene where the snake goes into Morris's mouth, like that fucking took me out. But then also
Yeah,
that whole like flashback reel of Morris and Lorraine, that was good. That's like one of the
that
main or
was
pretty much
good.
only scenes that stuck out for me. What about you? What scenes got your attention, good or bad?
Yeah, I will agree with that. That was a good like way to wrap it around because that was kind of one of those. That's like one of those things that I forgot about that they were even doing in the first movie, the whole like lecture and stuff. So to wrap it back to that being him, and you know, it did a good job of definitely connecting the story like fully, and then now we know how Lorraine even like Valak even knew about Lorraine and all that type of stuff and what like she saw in that moment. So I thought that was like pretty good. Like that was a pretty good like scene how they wrapped that together, and I guess just spinning off like that slightly, like they do that part good with their universe, like how they attach these like other entities into into the other movies. That's one thing I can say they do pretty good as far as the Conjuring universe is concerned. It's really just some of the separate movies themselves that aren't really that good sometimes. But the way they kind of weave everything together into like connecting it into being like one cohesive kind of universe, that's pretty. I think that's pretty. The way they go about it is pretty good for that. But getting back on topic, um, one scene that I definitely did like in this movie was when Frenchie, when he had his shotgun and he was trying to look for Sister Irene, and he walked into the room with all the like nuns with their heads covered in like bags. I thought that was a really good scene. I don't know why, like scenes like that when they're like everybody is just like it's like a whole bunch of people or like entities in one room and you don't know what they're gonna do, and like our like whoever's the main character at that moment has to like walk through them.
You
I
kind of
always like
mentioned
scenes like
that
that.
when there was like a similar scene in the Insidious franchise.
Yeah, I like that, and I remember, and they also did them like in Silent Hill with like the nurses. I like scenes like that. Whenever they do that, that's always kind of cool to me. It I don't know, it amps up like attention like immediately because it's like, oh shit, like what's about to happen. So I thought that was a really good scene. Um, Aside from that one, there was another pretty good one. I think it was the scene when Father Burke, yeah, when he was buried, and like the spirit was trying to get him after the like once Irene was trying to like get him out of there. That was like a pretty good one as well. Um, but besides those two, not that I like say like many of the other scenes that were like kind of unfavorable in this movie. I just they just didn't really stick out as much. It felt a little more cookie cutter in a sense, like how I mentioned earlier, the whole thing where they kind of copied that bit from The Conjuring 2 when Valak was walking when Valak's shadow was like walking past the room and into like the mirror. I mean, it was the painting in The Conjuring, but it was the mirror this time around. And then, but she just like was inside the mirror or something. Like, I don't know. Like, it just kind of felt derivative of The Conjuring 2 a bit in that sense. Like, I don't know, give us something else. Uh, a lot more possession though of like other people and stuff in this though, I will say. Like there were a lot more like scenes of like either like other people being possessed or like seeing like a lot of fake spirits and stuff like that. I would say compared to the other ones, I felt like there was a lot more of that going around. But yeah, overall, those probably were my two ones that I liked. Everything else was kind of a little bit eh.
Yeah, I get you. Like again, the only really scene that stuck out for me because that opening scene where the nun kills herself. That was also like that also grabbed my attention because if you know anything about Catholicism, if you know anything about any religion in general, you know suicide is a big no no. So like her taking that sacrifice to save everyone else in the church or try to, like that was a big standout scene for me. But like you said, everything else just kind of just felt like paint by the numbers. Like we have to get to this part. We have to get to this part. We have to do this. We have to do that. But this is just me and you. We're going to switch it up a little. We're going to do a little bit of changing. So the characters. There are a lot of characters. There weren't enough characters. So let's just talk about them in general. And I have to say that the priest,
Father Burke.
yes, Father Burke. Like I could have done without him, if I'm being honest. Is that a hot take? Is that a controversial opinion?
Honestly, I wouldn't abstain from that. I felt more like I feel like I get why he's there because because you know the order of how I guess you know things are with with the church and everything. I get why he's there, but his whole like side plot with the whole Daniel thing, didn't really care for it. Was more interested in whatever Sister Irene was gonna end up doing in the movie, just because you know, a novice, like I don't know, even though it's kind of a simple story, but the whole thing of like a newer nun getting called to assist a priest with basically trying to exercise a whole church when you have like actual nuns still there who can't do it. Like I don't know, that sounds more interesting than you know just Father Burke being called to the church to figure out what's going on here. Uh, but I don't know. He didn't really add as much for me. But I wasn't. But considering the amount of characters that we do have, I guess he was fine for the purpose that he did serve there.
Yeah, it's like we need it. They need to like pad out the characters. So I kind of get that. But since you brought up Sister Irene, the casting of that character upsets me.
Because they're not related.
Yes, like you have
Yeah,
Vera Farmiga, and you look at these two actresses.
you're right.
You could not know. I watched American Horror Story not knowing that woman's last name. But every time I saw an episode that first season, I kept on saying, "Why does she look familiar? Why does she look familiar?" And then my main reason I wanted to watch The Conjuring 2 was for Vera. Like that's the whole reason I've loved Vera Farmiga. I've seen her in most of her comedy stuff, her serious stuff. So then I finally saw The Conjuring 2. I'm just like, damn, they look alike. They look alike. Which forced me to go home and get on Google and like, damn, they related. They sisters. It all makes sense. These two look alike. You have the perfect opportunity to try to connect it, and they both clairvoyant. So why aren't they related? They have similar powers. That's how you would have done it. Like, yes, like it could have been explained away. Like, I know we're trying to say, once y'all did the spin-off movies, y'all veered far away from Ed and Lorraine's true story. So why not put a little spice on it? You know, why not, do a little twisty here? I feel like this. Once you cast a Farmiga, you should have worked around that. But that's just me. But overall, like, again, seeing Sister Irene be there, she's a new nun. She's barely had any experience, and she's the one they sent to assist him. That's where the movie was at. That's the movie that we should have had. And it reminds me of the plot of the show Evil on Paramount Plus. How we have this experienced priest who's going out to fight demons and evil spirits, and we have this new person to faith or to whatever teaming along. Like it's, I don't know. I just feel like I wanted to know more about the character. I needed the character to be more involved, more part of the plot. What about you?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I guess that's the like sucky-ish part of it being based on a real life like couple is that they couldn't go through with the whole this being a relation. But I mean, at this point, this all fiction. At this point, like if Lorraine Warren, the real life woman, they could have asked her if they was found with manipulating this shit. I mean, they already manipulating it anyway, but like immediately when they casted her, I was like, "Oh my god, is she gonna be related to Lorraine in the movies? Like, is that gonna be like her like great grandmother or some shit like that?" I don't know. I mean, I didn't know about the real Warren's life like that, so I didn't even know if she had a sister or some not sister like a great whoever was a nun about all that. So I wasn't even like thinking about it as much, but I definitely thought that was going to be a relation because I like the casting is there. Like we are like I feel like everybody thought that when they first announced that she was casted for this role, but she gives a good performance and she gives a good performance in this with what she was given. Like she definitely gives that energy of like being new here and being fresh and trying to figure this out in the best way that she can while also being new to one like first kind of not like exorcism, but first kind of like situation that she's been put in as a nun for the church. So I think like as far as all that goes, like she did really good with what she was given here, but she was too exploratory for me, and I feel like that probably comes with her being like clairvoyant a bit, but girl, that castle creepy. That church creepy. Why be walking around it at night with a little candle on a stick and you ain't got no shoes on?
Right? I'm like, girl, you need to stay with everybody else. You need to sit your ass down because it was pissing me off. Like I'm just like, why are we doing this? Why are you doing it? Like
Like,
you're literally here because other nuns were murdered, and you're just venturing off and just being like be fucking for real, sis. Be fucking for real, please. It was killing me the entire time.
and I think one thing that was funny in the movie was kind of the like the whole MacGuffin that they found with the blood of Christ. Like that is some like Marvel movie shit there. Like we need Thor's hammer. We need the
Yes.
blood of Christ. And it was like, come on now, like I don't I don't know, like in the other Conjuring movies, like the actual Conjuring ones, like they exorcised the demon, actually exorcised it. But in this one, they need the whole blood of Christ. And now I'm like, then how the fuck did Lorraine do that? Lorraine didn't have the blood of Christ. And now I want to know what they did in Nun too, because I haven't seen that yet. So
Okay, but also I wanna bring up like this movie being set in 52 brings up it's another issue for me. I feel like it should have been set like further back.
yeah, it should
At
have.
least the early 1900s, late 1800s. It should have not been set 20 years before we meet Ed and Lorraine.
Yeah, and I don't know if gives the energy as if it should be further back. Maybe it's because of the time period too. Like we're in Romania.
Yeah, that's what it is. Is the fact that it's set in Romania is given Gothic era.
Yeah, it feels like it should definitely like be farther, like a little farther back, like 30s or 40s or something. Like, but the 50s is like it is very close to, where we're getting with the actual like Ed and Lorraine. Because I mean the Conjuring 2. Now I'm looking it back up was in '76. Like that's when it took place. So it's not that far off. But also, I guess since they aren't related or anything, we don't have to do anything like that timeline wise, as far as, Sister Irene and Lorraine. So, but it does feel like it takes place before this, just because of the location and everything. It just feels a little more dated because of it. So on that front, I will agree for sure. But I guess to kind of bring back a little bit on Irene's character, I, she was kind of smart with what she did to take out Valak at the end. Now, blood in your mouth, though, that is kind of crazy. But she did what she had to do to get rid of Valak. But I am interested in seeing.
Blood in your mouth pre 84 wouldn't have been seen as crazy as it is post 84. So I gave her that, pre AIDS crisis, folks were doing all kind of wild, crazy shit. So, I gave her some grace. Would I have done that in general? Hell no, because that cannot taste good, at all.
Mind you, that blood been in there since the Dark Ages.
I thought you had more to say.
No,
Are you done?
I'm done.
What? It's been there since the Dark Ages, and it should have been set in the fucking Dark Ages, because that would have made more sense.
Imagine a whole bunch of fucking knights trying to fight Valak with a sword.
I'm just
no, I'm just saying, imagine.
I get you, because the aesthetic is giving that it should be set in a different time period. Definitely. And I don't know. It just missed the mark. But are there any other characters that stood out for you that you want to talk about?
I guess we could mention Frenchie a bit. He was like a sidekick, side character. He definitely helped where needed. And honestly, without him in the last act, they definitely would have got taken over. Because if he didn't come to help Sister Irene, by using the blood of Christ to put on her face so Valak could get out her body, she definitely would have got completely taken over. Especially with Father Burke dealing with the whole shit with Daniel haunting him in the church.
Okay, now you mentioned Daniel. Regular Daniel, evil Daniel, damn Daniel. The Conjuring universe's obsession with having just this random second or third entity around is annoying. That's how we got Valak in the first place. Why can't we just focus on the main entity? And The Conjuring, we mostly only focused on Billy, which was fucking great. There've been The Conjuring 2. Why do we always need to have the secondary or third villain around? That might just be me, but it's annoying.
And I guess that might be another reason why Father Burke's character is a little because without the whole Daniel thing, he really would not have any other plot to kind of deal with. Because that literally inserting that in the movie gives him a whole different plot line. But some of his scenes wouldn't even be there if that wasn't a part of the plot. Because now I'm thinking about it, yeah.
They cut him, cut the whole side plot, because it was a distraction. But bringing it back to Frenchie, did we hear the name Morris in the first Conjuring?
That I cannot.
Because I feel that's the only reason why they had him going by Frenchie.
They
Because I
might
feel
have
like
said it. They might have said it.
it was giving like
It was
Marvel style,
MCU callback.
yeah, it was giving Marvel style. We've heard this character's name before, so when we say his name is Morris at the end, it's gonna click to them before we get to the end of the ring scene. And
Yeah, but it's so like
I
not so far gone, but it's like one of those. It was so like a minute scene in The Conjuring that I feel like nobody would have picked that up. I feel like nobody picked that up. And I feel like somebody said they did, they lying.
and I feel like that's why that scene. I feel like that's why they circled back to the Ed and the Rain scene at the end,
Yeah,
because no one knew. They probably did some test screening and people were like, who the fuck is Morris? And then they were like, okay, people actually aren't connecting who Morris is. Granted, like, when did the first Conjuring come out?
2013.
The,
I want to say 2013.
I think it might have been before that, though. No?
Yeah, it's 2013.
Okay, yeah, but so now it's 2018. Like, there's a lot going on. But we don't remember Morris. I'm so sorry. And you've had several movies in between the first one and the second one, and a lot was going on. Like, we wasn't gonna remember Morris. I don't know. I just felt like, yeah, he was there. He helped them survive, and them using him to connect it back to Ed Marine was good. I mean, I wish they would have used Sister Irene to connect it back to Ed Marine, but I'm also happy that they used Morris, French, whatever the hell you want to call him, and he was kind of cute. So I didn't mind looking at him on screen.
I'm sure you didn't.
Well, I guess we can talk about Valak. What did you think about Valak this go around?
Um, I don't. I feel like it's gonna sound like weird, but I don't know. I feel like we need like power. We need like a power scale chart or something for the entities of the Conjuring. Like Valak is definitely giving the most power. Like probably has the highest power level, I guess you could say, compared to like some of the other like entities that we see in the movie, but in these movies. But I feel like Valak could just do a lot, and while we kind of learn a bit of backstory of like where it came from, or like where Valak came from, all that stuff, it also does seem a bit random at times in regards to like what Valak can do. But also like nobody's really caring about how the entity is able to do what they're doing. We just know that they're a demon. We gotta expel them. So, on that front, getting back to the like meat potatoes of Valak. Valak served their purpose in this movie, and it worked good for what we needed, which was some scares. The possessions like were there; they definitely increased like that. But one thing I'll probably say I like about Valak is how, which I think I mentioned this in The Conjuring 2 as well. They can't just like put a cross up to Valak and Valak is like running away or something like that. Like when Valak comes in the room, the crosses are turned upside down. So I do like that they can't just go to that, general like horror trope of the crosses are going to save you, like the religion is going to save you. Like when Valak's in the room, like shit, the religion is scared of Valak. But it also, I guess, kind of brings back up my topic of like quote unquote power scaling, because that seems too strong in my opinion. That we have to use the action, but I guess without the MacGuffin of the blood of Christ, we wouldn't have been able to defeat it. So I guess it's kind of needed for the movie purposes, but it seems like a very strong power scale level for an entity.
Yeah, I get that, but also
Talking about
my
anime characters.
issue with Valak is the same issue I have with Annabelle. Is like we were told so much, and the hype was so real during their appearances in the Conjuring 2, and that I felt let down by what we were giving in their first solo movie, their first star. Like this is Valak's movie, and Valak didn't give me what I wanted. Just like Annabelle didn't give me what I wanted. Like this, yeah, the scares were there, the design was there, but did we really learn much about Valak?
Not really.
And that's my issue. Just like if you're gonna take a character and spin them off, I need to know more. Like Annabelle Creations needed to be the first Annabelle outing.
And the blueprint at this point.
Yes, yes, it should have been the first outing. Why is the first Annabelle movie about this couple and their baby? Like that makes no fucking sense to me. It made no sense to me. It made no sense to none of us because all four of us hated it. So why would we get a similar? If you're going to give me a spinoff of this character that you already introduced, then just make it an origin. Because what you're going to have to do now is people are going to be like, okay, this was a good movie, but now I want an origin. And the Nun 2 ends up being an origin because they didn't do an origin this time, I'm gonna be pissed because I want to know more about Valak, and this was your chance to do it. I meant to be nitpick. I don't know, but it's just me.
No, I get what you're coming from. Like the Annabelle creation, especially since it was right before this movie, should have been the blueprint of what we were doing here, and it worked because director had a vision for the movie, and then they also executed on giving us an actual origin story behind it. But with this movie, it really is not like a complete retrace, but it's kind of a retrace of the first Annabelle movie where we just get put into someone's story happening at the same time as Valak's like reign, or like kind of this whole thing with same thing with Annabelle where this couple story just so happens to happen at the same time as this like whole cult thing, and Annabelle is put in, and the demon is put into the Annabelle doll. So it kind of retraces the whole thing, which is why I'm hoping the Nun 2 is better. But it looks like it's more of a direct sequel to this, so I'm not holding my breath on that.
I haven't seen anything about the Nun 2. I know it's already out. I haven't even seen the trailer. Once I knew that we were going to be doing this like retrospective review, I decided not to watch the Nun 2 and just avoid everything about it. So I don't know. I'm gonna use Annabelle Creations as the blueprint. I'm gonna say that it's probably gonna be a good movie. They learned their lessons from from this one, and the Nun 2 will probably be great. But enough about that. Tuan, can you give the people the behind the scenes info and facts?
The budget for The Nun was $22 million, and it brought in the box office of $366 million. Some interesting facts: while the crew was shooting in Romania, the production ran into a minor problem. Filming churches is banned in Romania. Because of this, everything that resembled a church had to be made by the crew from scratch. One promo for The Nun that sparked outrage was a 7-second ad that appeared before YouTube videos. Immediately after the ad starts, the soundbar supposedly goes all the way to 0 for an unexplained reason, but then Valak pops up accompanied by startling noise. Yo, I remember when that happened. It didn't happen to me, but I remember people were mad about that on social media when that happened. Valak is based on an actual legend mentioned in the ancient book Key of Solomon. The Valak of legend isn't a demonic apparition dressed up as a nun, but a child and the supposed president of hell who rides around on the back of a two-headed dragon. Taisa Farmiga, who plays Sister Irene in the film, is the younger sister of Vera Farmiga, who plays Lorraine Warren in The Conjuring. And with $366 million made at the box office, The Nun, surprisingly, is the highest-grossing chapter in the franchise by so far. Lastly, we have our critics' reactions. The film currently sits at a Rotten Tomatoes score of 24%. The plugged-in review for the film summarizes the spirituality evident in the film. Evil is real, the movie tells us, but so is God. Spiritual trappings are everywhere. In her review of the film published in a National Catholic Reporter, Senior Rose Paquette, a nun belonging to the Daughters of St. Paul, stated that there are two Catholic theological aspects of this film that are accurate. One is that the devil exists, and the other is that Mary, the mother of Jesus, will show us the way. Another religious sister, Nicole Reich, stated in her review of the film published on Sci-Fi Wire that if Valak was a real demon, he would never be able to reveal himself while the sisters were in perpetual adoration because the Lord was present. Interesting.
Not the nuns talking about y'all gonna use our religion to get this shit right.
Well, like I said, come correct.
Okay, but enough about them. What about us, Tawan? Do we cash or pass The Nun 2, Tawan?
Yeah, I will be passing on The Nun 2. I really didn't. This movie didn't really leave an impact on me when I saw it the first time. Well, I would say the second time since the first time was interrupted. But when I did eventually watch the whole thing, yeah, it didn't really leave an impact on me. And it's this kind of another one of those cases where if we weren't doing it for the podcast, I probably would not have went back to rewatch this one because it just wasn't really one that stuck out to me like, Annabelle Creation did or like The Conjuring 2. I like the character of Valak, but I like Valak in The Conjuring 2 more than I like Valak in The Nun.
And for me, it's also going to be a pass. Like I've already said several times, I expected this movie to be something different based off the introduction we got of Valak in The Conjuring, and it didn't live up, nor did it come close to my expectations. This is I don't know. They don't get their spinoffs off to a good start. I don't understand why they're missing the mark on that. So this is gonna be a pass for me also.
Wah wah.
And with that, we are now at the end. But join us next week. Join all of us next week as we all get back together to review The Curse of La Llorona. Should be good. Now, this is another favorite of mine, and somehow I watched this, but before I watched I saw La Llorona before I saw Annabelle's.
Favorite, it's crazy.
I've only seen it like twice. So maybe on this third watch, I might change my opinion of it, but who knows? Maybe not. So, but join us next week as we review The Curse of La Llorona. Good night.
Good night.
If you like this episode, please check out the Haddonfield Horror podcast from big series like Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Saw, or our one-off reviews like The Blackening and Hereditary. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok where the hosts post updates and mini reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms and YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. The Haddonfield Horror Podcast is produced by Mark Smart,
Maria Perez,
Twan Griffin, and Elian Cordova. Themed by Lethal Injection and edited by Mark Smart.
The Haddonfield Horrors Podcast is a Letters to Media production.
Should we do an intro?